David Adkin. I live locally in Kennington. I've been here for the last 12 years. Before that, we were 23 years in Clare. My background is I've worked in two areas. I spent my first 15 years working as a wedding photographer, which was really enjoyable, but I just got fed up with being nice to people. You know, you always have to be happy, you always have to be top of your game, and I had enough of that. So I went into the motor trade, and I've been there ever since, and I'm still involved in various areas of the motor industry. And what I really want to speak to you about today is something that it's not within the motor industry, it's not about photography, it's something that's been a passion of mine and something I want to give back. Do you remember when you started to drive, you got a booklet that you had to read before you passed your test? And it told you what you should do to your car on a weekly basis. Check the water, check the oil, check your tyres, check your windscreen wipers. Hands up, who's read that book? Who uses that as a guide nowadays? No one does. You know, we had that book, we read it, we took it all in, we passed our driving test, we threw it to the side. Because in the car, we've got a gauge. So if we run down on water, it kind of goes to the hot. So when we stop the car, we put some water in. We've also got a red light that comes up if we're low on oil. So we just don't check those things. Our bodies are exactly the same way. But we do have a check system within our bodies, which I found out. Now, back on May 2019, I went to holiday in Italy. And on the day of coming home, I woke up, had a shower, didn't feel that great, but I thought it's just anxiety of getting on an EasyJet. Got to Stansted Airport, still didn't feel that well. Turned out I was having a heart attack. So at passport control, I'm standing there, going absolute grey with paramedics, ECGs, calling an ambulance. The good side, it took about 8 minutes to get through passport control when there was about 10,000 people there. So if you are going to have a heart attack, that's a great place to have it. So my journey was, instead of going back to my mother-in-law's for dinner on that Saturday, straight to Papworth Hospital, out of the ambulance, into the theatre, 3 stents fitted, and by 5:30, I'm sitting up in bed with my son and my wife next to me, and the cardiac specialist come in. She said, "Dave, how are you feeling?" I said, "I feel absolutely fine." And she said, "That's great. I'd love to stay and talk to you, but I've got 3 other people that I need to operate on." Looked at my 2 sons, who were like 32 and 30 at the time, said, "Let this be a lesson to you." And I said, "Before you go, what lessons can the boys learn from the old man having a heart attack?" And she said, "Well, Dave, your heart attack didn't start today. This is something that's caused by chronic inflammation. Huge amount of people have got it. And if you've got chronic inflammation in your body, based on your genetic background, it's going to come out in different areas. It's going to come out in," I said, "I won't say a heart attack for you, a heart warning because you come through the other side. But it's going to come out in dementias, Alzheimer's, arthritis, skin issues. It's all about inflammation in the body. And when people start to control their inflammation, it's going to be a lot easier." So that was it. I left. I went on my cardiac rehabilitation course. And while I'm sitting at home, a good friend rang me and said, "Hi, Dave. How you doing? How's Jax? How's the kids?" And I said, "Absolutely fine. What are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm sitting at home. I'm not working at the moment." So he said, "Oh," he said, "Are you still trying to keep fit?" And I said, "Well, I try to." He said, "Well, that's why I'm ringing you." He said, "If there's a test that you could take to see whether the food that you've been eating is good for your long-term health, would you take it?" I did, too right I would. It's a shame he didn't ring me, a couple of years ago. I took the test. It was really bad. I then spoke to a doctor in America, and he put me in touch with a Scandinavian company, because the Scandinavians with their healthcare is absolutely superb. And I started importing some products from Scandinavia that really worked for me. I came out of hospital with a bag full of drugs. I'm not taking those anymore. And the company wanted to expand around the world. So although it's something I don't do full time, it's a passion of mine to say to people, test your health. Because up until now, we only went to the doctors when there was an issue. And if it's a bit of a graph, if your ill health starts down here, we tend to go to the doctors when it's up here, when we want a solution. We really need to beat it here. So What we have is an MOT for the body in 3 areas. We have one, there's a blood test for inflammation, which looks at how your diet is affecting your inflammation in the body and can predict certain health issues going forward. We have another one which tells about diabetes. Gary was telling you about, the figures on diabetes are horrendous. If you look at type 2 diabetes, there's over 3 million people who are treated for type 2 diabetes. There's over 4 million people that are treated for pre-type 2 diabetes, so they're pre-diabetic, but they estimate there's another 7 million people that are pre-diabetic and they don't know, it hasn't been diagnosed. And the NHS are estimating that diabetes is going to be the biggest drain over the next 10 to 15 years. The other area we look at, which came out through COVID, is that most of us in the UK and also in the Northern Hemisphere are vitamin D deficient. So we have a test for vitamin D, we can see where your levels are. Obviously, if you're too low, then you need more, but so many people now are actually overdosing on vitamin D, and that causes other health issues. So we have 3 tests, and I'm just really here as a messenger to say, if you think about your health going forward, have a test. Very simple. You do it at home, you send it off to the lab, it gets analysed, and they come back and give you guidance of what you can do going forward. And that's it. There is a website, yes, yep. I have a very active website which has videos of every part of the test and all the different protocols that we have. And yeah, only too pleased to send people little videos so that you can explain it. So I think I just want to be the message for people to test their health going forward.